3 Ohio State commits that are on Flip Watch. Let's talk about it. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, Ohio State. I am JR, and I do videos here each and every week, sometimes one every single day. Sometimes there's less than that. It just kind of depends. Come back and check out and turn notifications on so you can get all of those. You can also check me out for my Big Ten coverage over at the Big Ten Huddle. Follow me on Twitter over at JR's_rankings and the Big Ten Huddle on Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you for checking out the video. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 potential Ohio State commits that are on Flip Watch. They're not potential. They are Ohio State commits that are on Flip Watch. These are players that have visited other schools, or other schools are currently talking about them as possibly being flipped. Now, these are not the only players that other schools are talking about possibly flipping, but these are the 3 that seem the most common to talk about right now, or maybe seem like they're the most likely ones who would flip. I'm not predicting any of these to flip in this video. However, I am saying these are the ones that seem to be gaining the most interest right now from what I have seen and from what I have read and tried to dig into and look at a little bit more. Ohio State has the #1 recruiting class in the nation. That comes with a lot of positive, a lot of awesome things, but it also comes with some negatives, which is schools like Auburn, Miami, other schools in the Midwest. They're going to be going after your top tier talent because, quite frankly, they just don't have that top tier talent, and you have more than everybody else. Hence why you have the #1 class in the nation. So Ohio State is definitely playing defense right now. They are going out and trying to get other players, and so we'll talk about them as that stuff happens. But we're going to talk about the 3 players they are playing defense with the most right now, trying to keep these guys in the fold. Thankfully, none of these guys are, well, none of these guys are in the same position room. So you don't have a position coach trying to keep multiple guys into their position class group or whatever right now. However, they all are on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball, even though the defense is better for Ohio State last year, and I think most people would agree the defense is better this year, they're still trying to play defense with these guys and trying to keep them on their team. So let's talk about number one. Number one is TJ Alford. He is currently committed to Ohio State. He did visit Florida State last weekend. In the summertime, he did visit Illinois. And then there's also some chatter going on with the Maryland community that discussions have picked up with them. Illinois has a good relationship with the Vero Beach coach, Lenny Janikowski. Brett Bielema and him go way back, and Aaron Henry and him also have a good relationship. So Brett Bielema, I mean, he is a savvy recruiter. He is at Illinois. This is not one of the best places ever to recruit at, but he is a savvy recruiter. He's been around, been at Wisconsin, been down to Arkansas. Now he's at Illinois. He's been around. He's been able to recruit multiple different areas, and he's been able to, know a lot of people. And so when you have an in with a head coach at a program like Vero Beach, you're obviously going to be able to have the opportunity to get to know some of those players a little bit more. And that relationship has paid off for him to be able to get TJ Alford up to them for a visit. Now, to my knowledge, he's not been back since that visit in June or July, I believe it was. So it was more than a month ago. But this is still somebody Illinois is talking a little bit about. They want to get him back. They wanted to get him to visit again. And Illinois, I think, is more of an issue here than I think some people realize. I think that TJ Alford enjoys Brett Bielema. He enjoys Aaron Henry. I'm not going to predict that he flips or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, don't write them off. Sorry. Don't write them off just because they're Illinois, right? I mean, this is a program that is getting better right now. I mean, currently they're ranked 24th in the nation. Brett Bielema won Big Ten titles when he was at Wisconsin, so he's no slouch coach. And even though this is Illinois, this is a program that is still going to be able to do well and recruit. So I'm not telling you to be worried about them. I'm just saying don't just think about this as like, oh, Illinois, they stink. This is a better program than I think some people give them credit for. The other one being Miami. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here other than just the talks seem to be increasing. Miami is pushing pretty hard right now. This is another one of those recruitments where we could see, a lot of incentives coming up and being enticing for TJ Alford. I don't really think it's going to matter. I think Ohio State's NIL is in a really good place, and I think that they're going to offer him good money. Miami might try to come and swoop in and offer him a huge deal and, really a really big offer. but I don't think it's going to matter because I think Ohio State's offer on the table is strong. I don't think it's one that, Miami is just going to blow out of the water. Are they going to offer more than what Ohio State is offering? Yeah, they will. But are they gonna offer so much that it's, like, life-changing money that Alford is never gonna see? No, because Ohio State is pitching to him, "You're gonna be in the NFL. You're gonna be trained by James Laurinaitis. You're gonna go to the NFL, and you're gonna make a ton of money there." And that's what he sees at Ohio State. Miami, under Mario Cristobal and under the previous regime, can't say the same thing. Now he's building that. He's doing a good job right now, but at least right now, their biggest incentives is financial, not so much getting into the league. And then, of course, the other one was Florida State, where he was just at for the Memphis game last weekend. Memphis really helped us out. That was not a good game for Florida State. They are now 0-3 on the season. To me, this was like a cute little visit. It's something that he went to, and he seems to have a good relationship with Mike Norvell. But it, you can't seriously entertain a program right now like Florida State like that. And I know that some people are going to say, "Well, Jr., you're not giving them enough credit. They do some things really well." Yes, but some of these players, there's almost like a popularity contest with going on visits to certain places. Right now, Florida State, it's not a popular place to go for a visit. Before last year, it was, but right now, 0-3, a head coach that people are talking about they want to fire after he just had an extension made this last year. It's kind of a clown show down there, and the recruits know it, the families know it. They have good relationships. Don't get me wrong, Mike Norvell is a good recruiter. He gets people out of the portal very well, so he's working on getting recruits very well. But at least right now, 0-3. Sounds like he needs to be much more focused on his football team than he does some of his players that he's trying to flip. And right now, I mean, he's got Solomon Thomas and a number of other players, 2 defensive linemen that are kind of on flip watch right now. They got more players that are on flip watch for them to be decommitting rather than us because of the way things are going right now. My likelihood, like my defense decommit likelihood, so 1 out of 10, I put this at like a 2. I think TJ Alford adores James Laurinaitis, so as long as he is at Ohio State, I think Alford is coming to Ohio State. Unless anything moves, and of course, this is a prediction for right now, things always change. But unless things move and, get substantially in one area, and if that happens, I'll try to make sure I do a video on that for you guys. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is Zahir Matthys. Zahir Matthys is an edge from Pennsylvania, and right now there's no crystal ball or anything like that. However, he has visited Penn State, and this is an interesting one. So he visited Penn State during the summer, and there's rumors that he could get back sometime soon this season. Matthys, there's been reports going on from On3 and 24/7 that Matthys wants to come visit Ohio State during the Nebraska game. Now, Matthys has a little bit of an interesting situation where he doesn't have super reliable transportation to all of these events. And what I mean by that is Matthys has family and friends that really, really want him to go to Penn State. And so for him, getting a ride or getting somebody to take him or having the opportunity for him to go to Penn State, it's always going to be there. People are always going to be willing to take him there. They're always going to be willing to try and get him up there because that's where they want him to go. Big Penn State fans, Penn State opportunity, good relationships with people at Penn State. But Matthys really enjoys the relationships and the opportunity that he has with Ohio State. And so it's kind of one of those situations where it's like the family really wants him to go to Penn State. And I don't know exactly who it is in the family. So, like, his mom could see this and tweet at me and say, "Oh, I want to go to Ohio State." Okay. There is family. I'm not saying specific family members, but there is family that wants him to go to Penn State. And I know those voices are prevalent in his mind. And so not only does the influence of family members wanting to go to Penn State affect this? But I mean, he also grew up in Pennsylvania. He also grew up liking that program, so he likes Penn State as well. But like I said, he has a really good relationship with Larry Johnson, and he sees the opportunities that Ohio State has for him, not just on the football field, not just in development to go play football at the next level, but also life after football, recognizing the benefits that Columbus brings to somebody who is, an Ohio State grad. So whether things work out in Columbus and he has himself be able to go to the NFL, or whether things, he's just a really good college player, maybe doesn't make it very long in the NFL, he can come back to Columbus and he can live a good life there. Because guess what? Like us fans here in Ohio and in Columbus, not here in Columbus because I don't live in Columbus, but people in Columbus, they support Buckeyes and they want them to have a good life after football because they appreciate what they did on the football field for their school, for their city, for everything in Central Ohio. So Let's see if Matthys comes for the Nebraska game. I think it's likely that he will come. So I don't, if we hear anything about him not coming, that'll kind of be a little bit of a red flag in my mind. But I think that this visit is going to be important because it's not going to be your typical like show off the school visit. Matthys, he's been to the school, he knows the school. This is going to be more of like, hey, let's check in and see where we're at, right? Matthys is going to want to know where Ohio State is at. Ohio State's going to want to know where Matthys is at. And if Matthys does end up decommitting, this is not a situation where Ohio State says, oh, we don't want him. Ohio State wants Matthys. Matthys is a really good player, and Ohio State wants him. However, Ohio State does need to gauge kind of where he is at right now in this process. And if he is fully committed, go time. Let's go for it. But if he's still wavering, if he's still having a hard time, and he doesn't know what to do, then Ohio State's gonna have to make a decision. Now, if they make that decision to move on from Matthys, does that mean they don't want him? No, they think Matthys is a great talent. But if they do decide to move on from him because of him flirting with other schools and him being more interested in Penn State than they are, you know, that always has an impact there. Now, I don't think Ohio State would like tell him to decommit, but the way these things work, when you start trying less and when you stop going for the player as much as maybe you had before, that's kind of an indication. And that's kind of how sometimes these decommits get, pushed a little bit more by the staff of who is trying to do it, which again, even if Ohio State does that, that is not Ohio State saying we don't want Matthys because we don't think he's good enough. They want Matthys. They just want Matthys to be fully committed. So my decommit likelihood here is a 5 out of 10. Um, it's kind of interesting because these family situations are the hardest ones to predict. And so it might seem like I'm kind of, towing the line here saying a 5 out of 10, but I tell you right now, nobody knows where this is going to go right now. Nobody has a great indication of what is going to happen with Matthys and where he's going to go and what he's going to do. Anybody that tells you they know what is going to happen, they're simply lying. These family situations are the hardest one to predict, and at the end of the day, none of these insiders, none of these people who pay close attention to the program and know people inside the program are going to know what's going to go on until Matthys himself visits, and then he tells the coaches what's going on, and then the coaches relay that information to their insiders, the people that follow the program super close, which we are grateful for. I'm not bashing those people, but that's just kind of how the game works. So unless there is an insider out there that just has a really good relationship with somebody in the Matthys family, which somebody that's not in Ohio, somebody that hasn't been to Ohio State repeatedly, I find that a little hard to believe. But if we have information on it, we'll check back to it. But for now, I think it really just depends on this visit and the information that comes out after that. We'll see what happens and we'll try to read into it. But for now, Zahir Matthys, decommit likelihood 5 out of 10 for me. Number 3. It is, and I don't think anybody is surprised by this one. Neem Alford. Neem Alford currently has a crystal ball pick in for him to go to Auburn from Tom Loy. In addition to that, he is also getting conversation from LSU, Alabama, and of course, Oregon. Dan Lanning pushing hard for him there. The Tigers have been gaining very much a lot of traction with Alford, hosting him for the Big Cat Weekend in July, and then the season opener, they had him there as well. He's expected to be back at Auburn for the Oklahoma game. So, fingers crossed they don't do well that game. But this is definitely a recruitment or a commitment that is in a little bit of flux right now. And I know Alford doesn't like when people say, he's not fully committed. And I'm not saying he's not committed. I'm just saying that when he's continuing to make these visits, it does make you a little worried, right? It makes you a little worrisome, and especially the way with some of these quotes are coming out from his dad with like, oh, he's just trying to figure out what's best for him and do these things. Now he did come out and he did have that video where he said go Bucks, and it was all about Ohio State in that video. So that's great. Love that he is thinking enough of Ohio State to continue to he's thinking enough of Ohio State continue to talk about him to say go Bucks and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like he's going to Oregon and he's going to be on the other sideline in the Oregon game, right? Like he's going to be decked out in Oregon gear on the Oregon sideline against the team that he's currently committed to. So like I know there's commits out there like Alford who don't like this kind of conversation. I get that. But at the end of the day, like when you go to another school wearing their gear and they are suited up across the field from the school you're currently committed to, the fans and everybody, they're going to question what that means, right? There's a reason why nobody talks about Devin Sanchez, Tavian St. Clair, all these guys as possible flips or possible decommits because they don't do any of this. They're fully locked in with Ohio State. They don't visit elsewhere. They don't do anything else. Alford, on the other hand, he's enjoying his recruitment, and I'm not bashing him for that. I'm just saying this is somebody you have to look out for to possibly flip and go somewhere. Which, if he does, more power to him. He wants to go someplace where he feels it's the best opportunity for him. Go for it, young man. I'm not gonna, go against any young man for trying to do what's best for him in his future because at the end of the day, like that's what all these recruits are trying to do. Do I think his future is best at Ohio State? Yeah. So I think you'd be making a mistake, but obviously there's always personal stuff and things like that going on that we don't fully understand and we don't fully get. So we'll see where that goes. Speaking of Auburn, since we were just talking about them, Dan Lanning is pushing super, super hard. He gets this visit for him to come in, and so he's been there a couple times already. I'm not as concerned about Oregon as I am with Auburn. Maybe I should be after Auburn lost to Cal because that was kind of a bad look for them. We'll see where we're at after the Oregon visit. If Ohio State takes care of business, I'm not really worried about that one because I think Alford wants to go to a winner. I think relationships obviously matter with him, but Ohio State has won the relationship battle. There's nobody that has a better relationship with Neem Alford and his family than Tim Walton. But I think at the end of the day, he wants to go to a winner that he has great relationships with, and that right now that's Ohio State. So as long as Ohio State takes care of business against Oregon that day, I wouldn't even be surprised if Neem Alford makes his way over to the Ohio State sideline and starts dapping it up with some of the coaches and people like that. So I mean, if that happens, that would be really really fun. LSU and LSU and Alabama are in it too. Talks have picked up. No visits have been scheduled or anything. So until there's a visit that happens, I don't really take it too seriously. But apparently there are some talks going on. So we'll see. At the end of the day, Alford and his family has a great relationship with Tim Walton. He should be visiting Ohio State again for either the Iowa or the Nebraska game. We'll see which one of those he comes back for, but he should be coming back for that. My decommit likelihood here is a 4 out of 10, so kind of in the middle a little bit, but I still lean for him to stay at Ohio State because I think the relationship is that strong. And I think that overall, he's all about Ohio State. The Tom Lloyd crystal ball does make me slightly nervous. But I also look at Tom Lloyd's history, and he's trying to get out there and he's trying to make these big bold picks to try and gain some traction. I think honestly what's going on is I think 24/7 is realizing how much traction On Three is getting because of how much they talk about the rumors and how much they are trying to figure out stuff. I really hope 24/7 doesn't go that route because, quite frankly, On Three just pushes rumors and all that stuff way too much. It's actually gotten to the point where they are elevating recruits like Neem Offered higher, and I think part of it is because not all of it. I'm not trying to say Neem Offer doesn't deserve his rankings. I'm just using him as an example that some of this is also because they love to put on social media on their graphics. Top 5 player is seriously considering flipping and stuff like that. So I think that sometimes like Tavian St. Clair is like 15th for them. Devin Sanchez is like barely top 10. I'm sorry, but if you have Devin Sanchez outside of your top 5 in your recruiting rankings, like you're just wrong. You're just wrong. There's no other way about it. If you don't have Devin Sanchez in your top 5, you're wrong. And I think that is one of the biggest red flags to me that On Three is not taking their rankings seriously as much as they are just taking seriously trying to get clicks and trying to get people to subscribe and read some of their content. And I mean, it's not just been that. Like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that On Three does that makes me believe that. And I'm not really bashing On Three for that. I think that it's better having some of the social media content that we have out there because it is more entertaining. But sometimes I do think it goes a little over the top. So again, I'm not really bashing On Three here. I'm just saying it's a little bit different with what they do. I'm just thankful we have 24/7 who doesn't try to go into that click stuff as much, and they just try to provide the most accurate rankings possible. And that's why I still use 24/7's composite over On Three's history and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, Tom Loy. Oh, the other thing. So Tom Lloyd came out with an article after he did this crystal ball, and basically his reasoning was that the Ohio State staff doesn't feel as good as they used to, which, yeah, I mean, he went to the Big Cat weekend and then he went to a visit to their season opener right after that. I probably wouldn't feel as good either. And then he said that Auburn has felt better than they did before, which, like, yeah, they literally told their media down there that Alford would be flipping. So, but they've also said that about other players who didn't flip before. So I think Auburn is always confident in their flips. I think that's part of their culture and a part of what they do is trying to, just instill that confidence in their recruiters and in their media and try to, embrace that stuff as much as possible. I don't know if anybody writes more stories about flipping kids than Auburn does. That's just the way that their media and the way their coaches are. But, you know, like 75% of those kids don't actually flip. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Auburn is obviously very confident. I think they put on that confident nature in front of the media because it's a part of what they want being put out there. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think that was the right reasoning for Tom Loy to do a crystal ball. Far from me to judge the man. It's his job and what he does, and he's probably got orders that he's just trying to follow and stuff like that. So, but I don't, you know, I don't think it was a great reasoning to put a crystal ball out there. Similar to the same thing he did with Clemson. Like he didn't take his Clemson crystal ball off until they weren't in David Sanders' top four, right? I mean, he had a crystal ball in there for Clemson, and then David Sanders put out his top four, which was Georgia, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Tennessee, and then he just crystal ball off after that. So we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, those are my thoughts on all that's going on there. So what do you all think? Is there anybody else you're concerned about that could possibly flip? Is there anybody that you're thinking, no, JR, I think you got this wrong. I think I'm much more concerned about Zahir Matthys. I'm much more concerned about Neem Alford. Or let me know what you think about On Three. You think On Three is really feeding into the rumors, or you think a lot of the stuff they're pushing is true? Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys. Check me out over on the Big Ten Huddle for all the Big Ten content over there. Be back here for post game with Mike this weekend after the Marshall game. That will end probably around 3:30. It's big noon kickoff, so we'll have a good time there. But we appreciate everybody watching. Like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.